Hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 170. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And this week, we are talking creative jealousy and comparison in the age of reels. I don't know if that's what we're going to title it, but it might be. So you might just be hearing a double. It might even be in the thumbnail. So you might just get hit with the triple. But yeah, it's very easy. FOMO. We can get caught in FOMO, fear of missing out or seeing people doing crazy things with their gear, all that type of stuff, and feeling like we're behind or, not knowing enough. What is it? Imposter syndrome, anything like that. So we're going to talk what it is and ways we can deal with it. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is Curtis. Curtis, I know we're filming all of these in the same day, and to everybody listening, we are on vacation. I forgot. We already said that in the first one, but I probably should say it here as well because, yes, this is the next episode of the batch we're doing while Curtis is traveling around in Vietnam. We're just giving a little time so that we can do some other things and stuff like that. But we are pre-recording these so that every week we still have something coming out so we can hang out with you in the chat and in the comments. But Curtis, what have you been up to in the last 5 minutes since we took a break?
Well, I tell you what. If last episode I spoke about something that I was doing in the studio, let's talk about something that I was doing outside of the studio. Recently got my hand on a load of Ableton moves, which is great fun.
Mike is happy hearing that, I'm sure.
I'm sure he is. I've been speaking a lot to Mike recently about it, actually.
He's probably like, not this again.
The man is awesome. He's a depth of knowledge when it comes to able to move. Basically,
I would hope so. That's all he talks about.
It's great. And I'm still in that early kind of easy dopamine phase where you push a button, something lights up, and everything's great again. And you forget the perils of the world around us. It's really cool because next year going to be.
There's another album title, by the way. Perils of the world around us.
Perils of the world around us. Nice. I feel like I'm trying to get into a more optimistic time with Curtis, and these things just keep pushing me back.
So. Good luck with that,
man. And yeah, so there's a lot of I'm increasing my depth of Ableton and the various devices to teach it to the kids I work at. Teach it to the kids that I work with at the school. And I've got it, and someone put it in our Discord the other week. This idea that when Ableton first released the move, all three of us were a bit meh about it, and then two of us, because Eon Lake,
I could have sworn I wasn't as meh.
I think you were. I think you were a little bit more
jovial. The one that doesn't
use Ableton.
Because I swear I was like, this could get me to want to use Ableton, but maybe I'm not remembering that right.
No, I think you're right. I think, but Eon Lake and I, both of us, the Ableton users out of the trio, we were a bit meh about it, and now both of us have got our hands on one, and we're all a bit like, oh, this is quite nice, So they put it in the Discord, like this notion of maybe we should do a retrospective and kind of see how our ideas have changed.
I guess I'll just nap in my screen.
I think
while you guys talk. I have nothing to add to it.
It's I suppose what I'm getting on. It's been an interesting way in which to firstly have a look at my own inner default to criticize, right? Because I tend to do that. I tend to come from a criticizing place. I tend to come from a...
As we just discussed, you see pessimism in the world. So.
I do. I come from a pessimistic perspective.
It makes sense.
Yeah. So that's been fun to do. But also to see what the move does in terms of lowering the barriers to music production. Because you're not staring at a screen and you are limited to your 4 tracks. You're limited to, well, not so much of a limited, but you're playing with squares necessarily as opposed to notes, which for a lot of people is really good. So I've been kind of exploring that, and that's been a fun exploration which to do.
That's cool.
How about yourself? What have you been up to in the last 5 minutes?
Well, last time, since we're doing the different things we've done in the last week or whatever, I was actually working in the DAW last week. Well, last episode that we discussed this. I've been doing DAW work. But outside of the DAW and for the YouTube channel and stuff, I downloaded, finally, it's like a week after. And when you're watching this is months after. Maybe it was 2-3 weeks after today, June 1st, that we're recording. But I downloaded the update for, let me see if I can grab it, Polyen Synth,
Nice.
which added, I haven't gotten to check it out much besides just some of the scenes they added with it, but they added a like a sample waveform engine, dual sample waveform engine called the DWA synth engine. And I of course, the first scene I checked out, which scenes are like the whole setup for, like, there's three synths on it. That's the scene where it has all the different like patches saved for those synths and all that stuff. They had one from someone that was called Drones of Canada, which I was like, oh, Boards of Canada, let me check it out. So I checked it out. Pretty cool. I did a short talking about how to update on here, because the only thing I could find instruction wise was a TXT file in the update that was like very just like, do this, do that, do that. And I was like, I don't work from reading. So I made a video showing like how to do it. And everything was for using an SD card, but you can actually do it via USB-C. And that's just way easier for me. I hate like switching the SD. Like, no, just put it at USB-C in there, go to the computer, and you're good. But anyways, I did a video on it. It's on my channel, a short, and I really want to explore this synth engine a lot more because sample based, like I want to see, because you can upload samples. It looks like, so I'd love to capture some sounds from like my guitar, maybe rip some stuff from your songs, just because. I'm just kidding, but no, I think there's a lot of potential with these sort of two sample that you can merge between and do stuff with. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. And then just using that with a looper on the SP to make like songs, right? Like I'll loop a drum with the SP, and then I'll loop one of the three synths, and then I'll perform on the other two synths while those are playing. And it's a really fun way to just like make music and just jam. The Polyen synth for me is really like a jam synth. You just kind of get some drums going on something or loop something, and you just kind of like having three synths that you can play on is really a fun way to do it. And you can latch one that's doing like an arpeggio or a drone, and yeah, it's a fun synth.
It's cool. I mean, it's I mean, this is the trip that you've been on for this year. Has been that kind of like forced limitation, making these smaller setups, right? So you've just got the SP and the Polyen synth. Obviously, you've only got two devices, and then that Polyen synth is three, right?
Yeah, that's the nice thing. It's a 3-in-1, right? So
Yeah.
even though I'm limiting my box count to 2 boxes,
You've still got them inside.
I've got 3 synths, so I can and with the looper, I could loop all 3 of those synths and have 3 more synths I can play on, like on top. So, yeah,
It's good, and that seems to be playing precisely into your wheelhouse for your aims for this year.
yeah, it's cool.
That's what we need, man. That's what we need. So, I mean, that's a nice little segue, because with all the gear that you're getting from private companies to review and to sell, many people who see your channel might have this notion of some form of creative jealousy when they compare your journey to theirs in that regard. And that's kind of what we're discussing this episode, when we're looking at when we see these. When we see other musicians out in the world performing and putting their stuff online so that we can see, inevitably that creates and that conjures up some feelings inside of us. Some optimistic, inspirational, etc. Others can be more negative, and that's kind of what we want to focus on today.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you want to start?
Well, as someone who I'd like to start with you in that sense, because you're the one who has got this, burgeoning YouTube channel where you are playing with this notion of influences and making content creation. So I'd like to hear first and foremost how it affects you specifically.
Well, I guess it depends on from which angle, right? Because there's always someone you look up to, right? But I always just try to think like we only see a curated, perfect image of whatever anybody wants to present, right? Even if it's not perfect, like if they're presenting imperfect things, it's curated to tell a specific story. We don't see the whole deal, right? Like, sure, I'm trying to put a video out every week and a YouTube short. What you don't see is me being a dad for 16 hours in a day watching my son and stuff, and then trying with what little energy I have left right before I fall asleep, spending an hour in the shed, my studio, trying to create something, and then feeling like I made crap because I'm so exhausted, like I couldn't articulate the sound I wanted or this and that. and you just work through it. But then when I present it, it's edited and, you know, all of that, or even if it's not edited, like it tells a story. And so we only see that 30 minutes, 10 minutes of curated footage, right? And that's the same with anybody that's posting things. And you know, it's easy to see that and think like, man, that's awesome, but you don't see what else is going on in someone's life. And so that's the first thing I always try to think with anything. And I think it's also really good to just enjoy the process where we're at, because no matter what, there's always going to be things we wish we had. Even if you have everything, you're going to wish like, man, it was so much easier when I was young, or I was, you know, carefree and could just do whatever. But now it's like I have all these responsibilities or something. So that's how I like to approach that. Is you may see this awesome thing and you can be like, oh man, I wish it was like that or something for me, but you don't know everything going on in someone's life. And it's better to just be where you're at, enjoy that process, and just go for the journey, see where it takes you, you know?
Go for the journey, see where it takes you. Yeah, couldn't put it better myself. It makes absolute sense. Yes, when we see
Yeah, 'cause I
these,
thought I was just rambling. I'm glad I was able to bring it back, land the plane, so to speak.
bang, boom. Not only did you land the plane, that's one of those where the passengers would get up and start clapping at the end.
Oh, it's a water landing, man. It was that bad.
No, you've touched on something incredibly important there, because like, you know, you can't, you know, people making content and putting things out into the world to either to make a living or just for the fun of it is always going to be a thing, right? Your reaction to that is the thing that you can control, and it's very natural and normal to have these feelings of insecurity or these feelings of FOMO, or however you want to classify it, because, you know, we are inherently self-critical. We are more kind, generally speaking, to our outside humans than we are to the human inside of us, right? So it makes sense. But yes, it's totally natural, therefore, to see someone playing with a bit of gear, or playing with, in a curated kind of like doorless jam, or however you want to see it, and go, oh, you know, they're doing this. I can't believe it. Like, you know, what am I doing with my life? I'm just sitting around, etc., etc., etc. Or you can reframe it. You can see that this is just another human being, same as you, who is doing stuff and putting effort in, and that's what they're choosing to do with their time. Yeah. You are making choices to do things with your time, and, you know, and you can make choices nonetheless. But also, if they've managed to do it, if that's truly something that you want, you can go and get it, because the barriers to entry to do this stuff has never been simpler. You can just grab your iPhone and move it around a little bit and start posting content. And as long as you're posting content, if that's what you want to do, and if that's how you want to get out of it, then it's never been easier to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to remember that everybody starts out knowing nothing, right? You know, the biggest YouTubers, whoever it may be, you watch their first videos and it's cringe, awkward. There's terrible editing choices. Lighting might be bad. You know, the microphone's terrible. We all start somewhere and then learn. So yeah, it's like, if you want to do something, and rather than getting caught in the imposter syndrome or getting caught in the comparisons to it, just start and realize that your point in the journey is at the beginning, and who you're watching is at a completely different spot where you'll be in a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever have you. So it's good to remember that too. When, if you're making these comparisons, think about it in that way too. You know, like, well, I'm at the start. Yeah. They've been doing it for X amount of years. They've learned all this stuff, and you'll get there, but you have to start before you can get there, rather than just getting bogged down in the, I'll never get that. You know, it's like, well, you can start and then see where it goes. And there's no guarantee in anything, you know, but if you put in the work, at least you're making an effort and you should see something. And if nothing else, you've learned some cool things that you can put towards other things, you know, stack your knowledge into something. So you never know, like maybe that doesn't work, but all the things you've learned might work when you do this new thing, a new hobby you create, where it's like, oh, okay, well now I know how to film that. I know how to do the camera angles, the lighting, you know, record the audio, and then you never know. So yeah,
completely. If you and to branch off of that, yes, okay, someone who you're watching doing something maybe further along the track than you, but also what the track is has shifts.
Yeah.
Right? So like we've been doing this for getting on for 5 years now, and what makes good content in inverted commas for those who are listening on Spotify has remarkably changed massively. Not just here on YouTube, but on Instagram, on Blue Sky, whatever. Social media platforms have risen and fallen in the short time that we've been doing this. And what makes good content now doesn't make necessarily what good content was a year ago. Back in the day, when we first started out, as you said, and everything's grainy, potato quality, and bad cutting and choices. Then YouTube become very slick, very clean, very heavily edited, color graded, etc. Now we're back to some dude holding a small microphone, or some dudette making a small microphone with a camera, that kind of thing, where angles are different, and you're allowed to make mistakes, and things are allowed to be authentic and yet imperfect. Where what is now and where you are might not necessarily be what they're going to be, or be in alignment. But if you, like you say, just keep doing, they're going to align at some point. A bit like a sine wave in that front.
No, it's true, because what the algorithm pushes changes depending on what the audience is looking for. And something else with that too, like if you are a content creator or something, you have to be ready to pivot with how that changes if you want to play the game, right? Because things change. You're seeing some bigger music production channels announcing second channels because YouTube has become so hyper focused that if you make a video slightly different, covering a different niche or a slightly different bit of gear than your normal, they're just gonna not give any impressions to the video, and it's gonna tank. Even bigger channels and things like that. It's a very odd time for the algorithm, so to speak, and it will probably shift again. But that's the thing; it's always shifting and changing. And to go back to what Curtis is saying, like just because your content is different, or the creative things you do, like the way you film or the type of videos you make or the music you make, isn't what is catching the algorithm right now. At some point, it probably will, because the algorithm is shifting, ever shifting, if you will. So yeah, that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah, completely. And just to bring this back to music and art just for a second, because this has come and become a very kind of content creatory kind of episode, which is fine. We do marketing here as well. But essentially what we're doing is art, and it is creative, and it's very rawest form. And, we are happen to be in existence at a time where what gives art its perceived value is making waves on an algorithm, and that's what's gone through. It doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean that if you don't make it on an algorithm that you're not worth anything, because that's just not true at all. If you make art and you're being vulnerable, by your very definition you are pushing the boundaries of human existence, and that's beautiful as it is in its own right.
See, there's some optimism in you.
Trying to get there. Therapy. It's always good. So I suppose what I wanted to say in that regard is, just by the mere fact of sharing your existence with the world in whatever form it is, caveat, as long as it's not hurting anyone, the notion of what it is going to be great and going to be fine. And if it isn't picked up by the algorithm, that's okay. Just keep going, because your truth is real.
Yeah, definitely. And one last thing I want to cover is if you're trying to get away from the algorithm or not be inundated by all of these things that can make you feel those emotions and things like that. And I think one thing to remember is just step away, delete Instagram and stuff from your phone. That's what I'm doing. I have it on my iPad, and when I need to post things or interact with people or things like that, like send messages or talk to Curtis or something, I go on the iPad. And so it's one barrier from just going, I'm bored, I'm gonna open my phone and doom scroll, right? Or like look at some jam videos or something like that and see what everybody's creating right now. And then you get in that cycle of like, oh, how did they do that? Oh, I'm never gonna, like, just, it's gone, it's not there, right? And if you do need to go on Instagram, you still can, but you just kind of create barriers for yourself so that you don't get in those moments. And it's really easy with the phone, that we have it always with us. So if there's a second of boredom or there's nothing to do right now, phone, but if you get rid of that, maybe put some books around the house or something, and be like, well, I'm bored, I'll read a paragraph.
Yeah,
there you go.
just different habits and creating
Yeah.
different experiences in your life which bring positivity as opposed to negativity.
Yeah, I like personally, I don't find social media very worth it after
No.
years of doing it, right? And we've covered like growing on social media and stuff, but like it's never directly translated to much in terms of my music. Like I'll look at the analytics on YouTube, and if I share it as a story or as a post and say go to the YouTube video, it's like views from Instagram 5 out of like 3,000 views or 10,000 views. You know, like, and I'm not saying that everybody's Instagram experience will be that way, but I just it's like okay, well, so for that, if my goal on Instagram is to show my music, was it doing much for it? So should I put in much time? And you could disagree with me. I'm not saying everybody should do this and that everybody's the same. I just for me it's like okay, well, I don't find that very worthwhile, so I'm just not going to pay much attention to it. I'd rather build a mailing list, interact with people on my YouTube, build my YouTube community up, talk to my channel members, talk to our patrons, go to our Discord, which, by the way, the link is in the description if you want to join our Discord. And I think this was a shock to Curtis, but he's going to throw a QR code up. There it is. Yeah. That I find is far more where I want to be. Discord community, right? Because we can talk with others who are of a similar mind, and instead of comparing and getting in FOMO and imposter syndrome, it's other creatives that want to talk the creative process, the process of making music, the stuff we love learning about. Like that's where I want to be.
Yeah, and I think completely you want to be surrounded by the people who are lifting you up and being creative along with you, as opposed to falling in the trap of the content created machine. The argument that we've seen from many a influencer or many a social media person who has quote unquote made it in the social media world, they're more often than not they'll tell you that they spend more time making content than the art in which they love doing what they set out to do in the first place. It is a black hole of marketing and capitalism, like so many things. It's not all it's cracked up to be. So if you see someone who's making content on a regular basis and having a good time about it, chances are, as we said at the beginning, it's not so peachy. And also, there's other things to be doing. And art was around long before the internet, and that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Anything you want to add before we call this one a day?
Just to say thank you to everyone listening. And if you enjoy what we do, consider heading across to patreon.com/audionautic. That QR code is there. But if I also maybe do this one, this might be better. Yeah, there you go. Dead in the middle. Still working this out. In the past of this video, we're still new to this restream. We've only had it for a couple of weeks. We're still kind of getting it ready. But yes, anyway, look at that. It glowed as well. That's definitely worth the side switch to there. Our patrons are the ones who bring us this show, because they are the one that keep the lights on, as Sunwarper says so lovingly. It's thanks to our patrons that we're here. It's thanks to our patrons that we come every week to sit and have these kind of conversations. We usually go live, as we said. We're away for summer right now. But if you like what you see here and you want to get involved, come down to the Discord, as we said before, and come be there, but also support us on Patreon as well. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think that sums it up. We will be back next week, 11 a.m. Pacific. Again, since this is pre-recorded, we're going to throw it to our Discord community about whether we should do these as premieres, where there's a chat, or just post them as videos, where we can interact in the comments, but after, it's not live, so to speak. I kind of like the notion of having some semblance of our live stream with the chat, but it does mess with impressions, which means the views get lessened and things like that. So we'll see what the community wants, but you're either watching this live in the chat and you can say hello that you're seeing this part, or you're watching this as a full just video. So let us know in the comments what you think. Are there any things you do to avoid this creative jealousy trap, whatever, comparison trap, whatever you want to call it? Are there things you wish you could change, want to do, want to start doing, things like that? Let us know in the comments and on our Discord, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Ciao.